So this is a very familiar picture for anyone in the field of suicidology. And I have to say, sorry, let me go back to it. I have to say, 6 months after my husband died by suicide, I had the privilege of going to the American Association of Suicidology conference and meeting Dr. Thomas Joyner, whose theory I have put up on the screen. And I have to say, like, looking at this theory probably changed my entire course in terms of what I do professionally, because it was in understanding Dr. Joyner's theory that I actually realized why my husband ended his life. And I realized all that I didn't know as someone who was trained in public health, who was a population health scholar, who was teaching frontline social workers about mental health policy. And ironically, I knew zilch about suicide. So it was Dr. Joyner's picture, which I'm going to describe in a minute, that really kind of changed my whole professional trajectory. So what does Dr. Joyner say about why people die by suicide? Well, he talks about this concept of these three different conditions have to coexist simultaneously: that of thwarted belongingness, perceived burdensomeness, and acquired capability. And one's falling into those three circles really is influenced by what we call risk and protective factors, such as mental health disorders and alcohol misuse that Amy just talked about, and adverse life events such as being incarcerated or getting a divorce, et cetera. So your risks, those experiences and those risks really do influence what happens in terms of those three circles you see there. And so let me just take the example of my late husband. So I mentioned he was a lawyer who, a huge part of identity, his identity was of being as a lawyer, was being a lawyer. So when he took that leave of absence, he suddenly was very isolated from his community and really didn't feel like he belonged or was really worthy. He felt like he was a burden to myself and to his family and friends, which of course was not a logical thought. Nothing could have been further from the truth. But to us, we didn't really understand like what was going on with him. So he was, in his mind, he was a perceived burden. And then acquired capability. So I mentioned my husband was able to legally purchase a firearm, but really this concept is more complex than that. And that what acquired capability means is that someone has to, over time, either through exposure to death and dying on a regular basis, or through exposure to thinking about suicide and practicing it through suicide attempts and what people call suicide rehearsals or attempts, that they gain the courage. In this case, it's really, really a scary thing to think about killing yourself, right? And so you gain that courage. And so that acquired capability refers to one's ability to feel like they can actually take action.